Let's get right into this. Listen, if this book is going to work for you, you're going to have to be real with yourself. And if I'm going to ask you to be real with yourself, the least I can do is start the process with some transparency of my own. 10 years ago, I was in a very dark place. My life was all about football, though the challenges in my life certainly didn't end there. From the time I was a kid, I was always one of the best players on the field. I remember the first 3 times I ever touched the football, all 3 plays went for touchdowns. Before I even was a teenager, there was no doubt in my mind that I was destined to play on Sundays in the NFL. My future seemed even more certain when I started as a wide receiver for Baylor University. I was ready for a long career in the league. When draft day came around, I watched every pick of the draft. Experts had told me that I was likely to go in the later rounds, but it was possible I could go higher. So I stayed glued to ESPN from the start, waiting to hear my name called. Except it never was. 2 days, 7 rounds, 255 players, 34 of them wide receivers, like I was, and not one of them was me. I'd be lying if I said that didn't hurt. It did. But I had to hide my hurt behind a smile. I had to pretend I wasn't worried that my lifelong dream wouldn't be coming true. 15 minutes after the draft, my worry started to fade as multiple teams called, trying to sign me as a high priority free agent. After getting counsel from my uncle George Stewart, who has been coaching in the NFL for more than 20 years, I decided to sign with the Indianapolis Colts. They were fresh off a Super Bowl title, and I knew I had the skills to help them get another ring. I just knew Peyton Manning and I were going to be making big plays all over the field. I just knew it. I got to training camp, and things were going great. I started at the bottom of the totem pole because I wasn't a returning player or a high draft pick. But I got off to a great start in the preseason. Maybe the best in the NFL, and certainly the best among rookies. Undrafted free agents are always a long shot to make the team. But I was turning heads. I was balling out. And I was sure I was going to make the squad. Then the Colts didn't play me in the 3rd preseason game. That didn't make sense to me because I've been playing so well. I asked some of the veteran players about it, and they told me that the team was trying to hide me because they didn't want other teams signing me. That didn't make one bit of sense to me. Doing that only makes sense if they weren't planning to sign me. And in spite of how well I played, that's exactly what happened. They cut me and then re-signed me to the practice squad, which meant I wouldn't suit up for games, but could still get a call at some point. I figured I'd be in Indianapolis the whole season. So I got an apartment in a car. Then, after week 2, they cut me from the practice squad. All of a sudden, I gone from visions of being an NFL star to right back in my room in my parents' house. Not wanting to go out because I was too embarrassed to talk to anyone about what happened to me. Not getting drafted hurt, but this hurt even more. I've been working for this since I was 6 years old. How could it be slipping away from me? A week later, I was back on the practice squad. And a few weeks after that, Coach Tony Dungy told me I was going to be moved to the active roster for a Monday night game against the San Diego Chargers. Okay, I thought this didn't start out the way I wanted, but everything is turning around for me. 10 years from now, my friends and I will laugh about how I was worried that my long NFL career wasn't going to happen. But something wasn't right with my knee. I've been feeling it for a while, and I ignored it because I had to. I couldn't afford to let an injury get in my way. The problem was that it wasn't getting any better. I had to pop a pain pill before every practice just to get on the field. I knew that if I set out a practice, I would be going home. No team needs an injured guy on the practice squad. And they certainly don't need an unproven guy that isn't 100% healthy on the active roster. I tried to fight through it, but coach saw me limping, and he told me the team couldn't afford to activate me if I wasn't able to go full speed. I knew in that moment that I had lost out on a huge opportunity. I stayed on the practice squad the rest of the year, but I never got another chance to get in the game. The next season, I was invited to the mini camp with the Seattle Seahawks. They wound up cutting me right at the end of preseason. But then a week later, they called me and said they wanted me to come back. That very day, in fact, I quickly packed some things, rushed off to the airport, and was just about to board my plane when I got another call from Seattle. They changed their minds. I got one more shot with the Washington Redskins. I was completely healthy, and I ran the fastest time of my life. A 4.3 40-yard dash, which is super fast. The Redskins signed me to the practice squad, but I never got any further, even though I had great practices. By November, they had cut me, and I learned firsthand the real meaning of the initials NFL. Not for long. I refused to believe my dream was over. I just kept running from reality. Because reality didn't connect with the vision I had for myself. I was a football player. It was the only way I knew how to define myself. So I had to keep running from the fact that football wasn't happening for me. If the NFL didn't want me, yet there were other options. There was the Arena Football League, and they were happy to have me. The game was brutal on my body because the fields are small and the turf is laid over concrete, but at least I was playing. Then I got a call from my college coach to come play for the United Football League, a new professional league that had been trying to compete directly with the NFL. I had a great tryout, and I ran one of my fastest 40s ever. They said they were going to sign me, and I thought this could be my ticket to the pros. 2 weeks later, I got a call saying the league was going to fold. It had lost too much money, and football fans had made it clear they didn't want a new league. Reality had gotten right up in my face, but I still kept running. I was fast during tryouts, but I was even faster when I was running away from the truth. And while I was running, I was doing all kinds of other destructive things to my life. I started smoking and drinking, and I was partying all the time. I was running around with women, even though I had an on-again, off-again girlfriend I met when I was with the Colts. I didn't care about life. I was living reckless. I was doing anything and everything to fill me inside because I was feeling awfully empty in there. Living reckless meant that I didn't have to face up to what was really happening. And I thought I can keep this going indefinitely. Then I got a woman who wasn't my girlfriend pregnant. I wasn't ready in any way to have a kid. And I made this very, very clear. Maria made it equally clear that she was keeping a baby, which freaked me out. Meanwhile, I had to tell my girlfriend, we were on again, sort of, that I had gotten another woman pregnant. You can imagine how that went. Complicating the fact was that my mother and my girlfriend's mother were close friends, and this had created a huge amount of friction between them. I was a jerk at the time because I didn't want to be a man, but was blaming everyone else. I just wanted to keep running. And then I couldn't run any longer. I got a call telling me that my college roommate, Anthony Arline, had committed suicide. He had made the Chargers, but then had to leave for personal reasons. And the loss of his football dreams had a big effect on him, ultimately causing him to take his own life. I was devastated because Anthony was one of my closest friends. And I was even more devastated because I hadn't been paying enough attention to see what he was going through. Maybe if I had, I could have convinced him to keep going. Maybe I could have helped him see a way out. That was my rock bottom for me. That was when I realized that I had to face up to my reality. It was at Anthony's funeral that I finally understood that life isn't promised, that we aren't guaranteed tomorrow. If I want to leave a mark on the world, I was going to have to start working towards that. I had to do it for my newborn son. I had to do it for Anthony. I had to do it for all the people like Anthony who might still be able to make their lives work. By this time, I had started rehab time and released a few videos. But this was when I really decided to dedicate myself to helping people. Back then, I only had a few thousand Facebook followers. And I would open my phone line up at night to them, saying that if they were going through a tough time, they should call. And here's something I never would have imagined. Doing this felt better than professional football had ever felt to me. When I was helping people, I felt that I was truly living my purpose. And if I was really being honest with myself, I didn't have a love for the game anymore. Football wasn't quite in my rearview mirror yet, but it was almost there. The most important thing was that I stopped running. I finally realized that I couldn't win this war if I kept running from my battles. And this was a war I absolutely needed to win. Not just for me, but for everyone around me.